In today's notes, we'll go over comparing prokaryotic and eukaryotic cells. So the first thing you need to know that there are 5 characteristics that are classified as living. So you have to have all 5 to be classified as a living organism. The first thing, if you are considered living, you have to be made of cells. So the cell is the smallest unit that's classified as living. So whether you're made up of one or many cells, to be classified as living, you do have to be made of a cell or cells. Second characteristics of living things is that they have to be able to metabolize nutrients. Guys, that's not just breaking down the food that you eat. You put starch in your mouth, the amylase breaks it down into sugar, and it goes into your belly, and it continues to break down with the peptase and the lipase into lipids and proteins. But you're going to build that stuff up into other things like nucleic acids. So you're breaking things down, but your metabolism's also building things up for you. So in order to be classified as living, you have to metabolize nutrients, the things you eat and consume. Metabolism is a set of chemical reactions that occurs inside your cells. So on your notes, it's going to ask you to define metabolism, the chemical reactions that occur inside of cells, whether it be one or many. A chemical reaction is just something that takes whatever the reactant was and it completely changes it into a different product. It's not something that stays the same. It gets converted into something new. So here's glucose metabolism, breaking down from glycogen to glucose. The third characteristic of classified as living organisms or things is that they have to be able to reproduce themselves. Okay, so one cell breaks up into 2, and then 2 more. So they have to be able to reproduce. The fourth thing, all living cells have to have genetic material, has to have DNA, genetic material, DNA, nucleic acids. Nucleic acids are your DNA and your RNA. They store and transmit your genetic information. Why do you look the way you do? It's because of your DNA, half from mom, half from dad. So in order to be classified as living, you have to have genetic material. You have to have DNA. Your notes is going to ask you what DNA stands for. Remember, the Na is just nucleic acid. It's the biomolecule, the organic compound that we've studied a few lessons ago. It's made up of nucleotides. Remember, you need to know the 3 parts of a nucleotide. Here's your sugar. It's your ring structure, sugar. Phosphate is the round circle. And a nitrogen base, A, T, C, or G. And then D stands for deoxyribose, and that's the sugar that's found in DNA. So on your notes, you're going to have to say, what does DNA stand for? DNA stands for deoxyribo, because that's the name of the sugar that's in DNA, nucleic acid. Okay, Na, nucleic acid. Here's a picture of DNA. You will have to know that it is a double helix shape like that. And all this DNA is crumpled up really, really tight, wound together into this chromosome here. Okay, so it's a lot of DNA. Last thing that all living things have to do, they have to be able to maintain homeostasis. That was the word we talked about on day 1 when we did our vocabulary reference sheet. We used our reference sheet to answer the bell ringer. Homo, same, stasis, state of balance. Homeostasis, same state of balance. All living things have to maintain a constant internal balance of water, nutrients, and energy. We do this on a daily basis. You drink water. You're going to urinate the water. You're going to need more water. You're helping your kidneys here filter out all the bad things in your body. So your kidneys are going to take it down to the bladder and you're going to urinate but you'll have to keep taking more water in to help filter out and clean out your system. Also, when you are outside, your body helps regulate energy. If you get too hot, you sweat. If you get too cold, you shiver. That allows for heat loss or to conserve heat. So if you're too cold, you shiver. That's making your blood vessels come closer to your skin so you can warm up. And then when you are hot, you sweat, and that's so you can lose some of that heat so you can cool down. So those are some examples of homeostasis that you do on a daily basis. All right, moving on. Cell structures. All cells, and therefore all living things, as long as they have those 5 components, have some organelles and structures in common. We have 2 types of cells. We have a prokaryotic cell, very, very simple. And we have a eukaryotic cell. Those are your plant animal cells. Prokaryotes are your bacteria, very simple. Plant animal cells, very complex, very big. So you will have to know the differences between those. And these are both classified as living because they maintain homeostasis. They contain DNA. They reproduce. All those things we talked about. They metabolize nutrients. They are classified as living. And so there's 2 types of cells you need to be familiar with. On your notes, it is going to ask you what organelles that have in common. Between prokaryotes and eukaryotes, pro means lacking or before, and karyote or kernel means nucleus. These guys came before a nucleus. You see how this DNA is not inside a nucleus, where the eukaryotic cells have a nucleus where the DNA is contained. U means true, kernel, nucleus. True nucleus, that's where the DNA is. And this one, prokaryote, means the nucleus wasn't there. It came before the nucleus formed. So the DNA is just kind of floating in the cytoplasm. So you kind of look here. You might have to reference this when you're taking your notes. There are several things that they have in common, but not. Prokaryotes are so simple. They only have a cell wall, which only plants have. Animals don't. A cell membrane. All cells have a membrane. Cytoplasm, ribosomes, and DNA. So the only 3 things that they share is a cell membrane, cytoplasm, ribosomes, and DNA. All cells are surrounded by a cell membrane. We talked about that. And be familiar with the word permeable. Permeable means it allows things to pass through. Well, the cell membrane is selectively permeable, or sometimes they use the word semi-permeable, and that just means it doesn't let everything go in and out of the cell. It's selective. Only small, uncharged particles can go through this phospholipid bilayer, which is made of lipids. Phospholipids, lipids, very fluid, but it's selective on who can go in and out. So here's a picture of the phospholipid bilayer. Guys, it's called bilayer because there's 2 layers. Bi means 2. Layer here. And so it allows things to go inside the cell and outside the cell if it's small and not charged. And that has a big job for maintaining homeostasis. We need to make sure water is balanced on both sides. We have to watch how much water goes in and out. Okay, aqueous. That word aqueous means it dissolves in water. Water is the solvent. It will dissolve in there, like salt or sugar. So all cells have an aqueous solution. That's your cytoplasm. The word cyto actually means cell. So it's the liquid, it's the plasma of the cell. And it's inside where all the organelles kind of hang out. This contains all the nutrients and organelles needed for the cell. And know that every cell has genetic material in the form of DNA. DNA is wrapped around proteins, packaged into large complex structures called chromosomes. Okay, this is a eukaryotic chromosome. It's linear, it's a line. And the prokaryotic one is kind of all jumbled up into a ball.